Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, with our main topic today. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has met yesterday on Monday with the Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, who is paying a 3-day visit to Egypt. Both the President Sisi and Prime Minister Frederiksen have held a joint press conference, and we would like to shed more light on this. So we have the pleasure to have this phone with His Excellency Ambassador Ayman Moshrafa, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good morning, Your Excellency.
Good morning.
Well, Your Excellency Ambassador Moshrafa, how did you follow the visit, the 3-day visit by Prime Minister of Danish Mette Frederiksen, and especially the press conference that took place between her and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi?
Good morning. First of all, I want to emphasize that the visit of Minister was among several visits of several leaders to Egypt to make a point that the Egyptian-European relation is a strategic relation, and we emphasize always to have this strategic relation, especially on trade and political consultation, since the Middle East is very, very important market, an important area to the European country and the European Union in general as a bloc. And I want to shed the light too that Denmark is not the first big high-ranking visit. We had several visits before. The Prime Minister of the Danish Prime Minister visited Egypt 10 years ago, and former President Hosni Mubarak made a presidential visit to Denmark too. So we have always an ongoing relation with Denmark on several issues, especially political issues. And Denmark is a very important trade partner for Egypt, especially in agriculture and importing foodstuff like cheeses, like dairy products. So for Denmark, Egypt is a very, very important market in the Middle East.
Yes, so Your Excellency Ambassador Moshrafa, Danish Prime Minister said during a press conference with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi that she had the pleasure to visit Egypt as both countries are celebrating the 65th anniversary of the establishment of the diplomatic ties between Egypt and Denmark. And also she expressed that her country is looking forward for more cooperation with Egypt, as Egypt is rich with raw materials and energy. So she said that, expressed her country's aspirations and willingness to cooperate with Egypt in these fields. What's your comment on this, please?
Yes, actually, I want to shed the light on this issue that we have historical relation with Denmark, and Denmark was one of the oldest European countries that we have exchanged for diplomatic relation. As you mentioned, 65 years, and the Danish always have a prime importance for Egypt, since Denmark is an important country in shipping, and we in Egypt are on the crossroad of trade, and the link between Africa and Asia and the Suez Canal is very important artery of trade between the Asian market and Europe. So I think the Danish, they are very interested in putting some investment in the Suez Canal economic zone and other important area. And especially Egypt has a lot of trade agreements with Africa and with Arab countries like the COMESA, like the NAFTA, like the AFCTC. Many African agreements which would permit any joint Egyptian-Danish investment projects to be exported free of tax charges to the African and the Arab market. So, I mean, the Egyptian market is very lucrative to the Danish investor in that we have, good exposure to neighboring markets with very competitive, of course, factors like moderate energy prices, skilled labor, and the government are offering many incentives for investors too. So the pull factor towards investing in Egypt is very competitive comparing to other countries.
Yes, also President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi have said during the press conference with Prime Minister Fredriksson that Egypt and Denmark there are great cooperation between the two countries in the field of green hydrogen. So could you shed light on this, please?
Yes, we have hosted the COP27. And we attach a great importance to new projects about renewable energy in general, like the windmills, like liquefied hydrogen, like solar energy, which are very clean projects and clean source of energy. Since we have a problem in global warming, and of course Denmark and most of the European countries are attaching an important factor to reduce the gas emission. And to reduce the gas emission, we should replace the traditional oil supply and gas supply towards a more clean energy, which could be produced in the Middle East in general, since especially solar energy. Since Egypt has a very important, a very good moderate weather and high sunshining rate. So we could have very important and large solar energy plants which could export the clean energy to Europe.
Yes, so Your Excellency, also President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi during the conference also said that he discussed with the Prime Minister of Denmark the illegal migration, saying that Egypt have paid great attention to the illegal migration since the year 2016, and not even one, no illegal boats have crossed from Egypt to Europe since 2016, which is, of course, the illegal migration is a problem that should be, a solution should be put for it. How do you see Egypt's stance concerning this?
Actually, we have a we are a victim of illegal migration since we have more than 5 million immigrants from neighboring countries. Nevertheless, we are welcoming them and we are trying to alleviate the suffering of those migrants. And we always have a very common policy, and we have against illegal migration to Europe, because we do think that illegal migration could threaten the life of the immigrant itself passing through the sea, and we have a lot of unfortunate accidents of migrants drowning in the Mediterranean Sea. So we have we took many measures and many laws against illegal migration, and the Egyptian law is very clear and very swift in punishing the culprits of the rings which are dealing with illegal immigrant towards Europe or anywhere else.
Yes, so for her part, Danish Prime Minister Fredriksson have thanked Egypt and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for, and congratulated President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for the successful organizing and hosting of the COP27, which took place last November in the city of Sharm el-Sheikh, and said that this is one of the things that threatens the whole world, the climate change. How do you see this also?
Denmark always have attached importance to this issue of global warming. And Denmark even itself have hosted one of the series of the environment meetings in Copenhagen. I do not recall the exact dates, but they share our concern about the global warming, and always are encouraging policies which would lessen les gaz à effet de serre. That means the emission of warm gases, which would threaten the environment globally. And Egypt itself has a problem with global warming because with the rising level of the sea, it could threaten very important and dear parts to Egypt, like the Delta and other areas. So we're attaching great importance to any project which is going to help to lessen the global warming and to fix or adjust the ceiling of CO2 emissions. But actually, I do feel that the African continent, it's not, it should not be punished, because actually the African country has only 3% of the global emissions. So, I mean, the burden of controlling the CO2 emissions lies on the industrialized world, who is considered one of the great polluters. And it has polluted the world, and it's still, I mean, this dilemma is still going on. So we hope that through international cooperation and international negotiation, we could reach a ceiling that one upon a time you would have a cap on CO2 emissions, and which would help, I mean, the cause of leaving a clean environment for our sons in the future.
Yes, so Your Excellency Ambassador Moshrafa, also the Prime Minister of Denmark have described her talks with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi as fruitful, and for his part President al-Sisi also described the relations between Egypt and and Denmark as historical, and also the Danish Prime Minister said that the relations between Egypt and Denmark have always been, through the 65 years since the establishment of the diplomatic relations, have always been on very good affairs. So we'd like also to shed light on the coordination between Egypt and Denmark, as the President El-Sisi said, in the fields of transport, energy and environment, also in the field of culture and education.
I mean, culture is a very important area, and the Prime Minister met Sheikh Al-Azhar, and Al-Azhar always is an institution for moderation. So the cooperation between Al-Azhar and Egypt in spreading the moderate ideas and combating extremism all over the world, it's a very important task. Since, I mean, Al-Azhar is considered as the main soft power of Egypt. Egypt is a country which has a very important cultural heritage, religious cultures, and a heritage in music, theater, literature. So, I mean, the cooperation in culture did not take the prime importance as we hope. So I do feel that in the next future, of the next generation, they would give more importance to the cultural area, because yes, culture is a bridge which most of the people would need. And in general, Egypt is a very, very important country in tourism too. So we do hope that we will have more Danish tourists. And I do know some Danish diplomats, and they told me that the Danish people are craving for history, and especially Egypt is very rich in history, and it has historical layer.
Yes.
From the pharaonic, the Muslim, the Neo-Ottoman culture and
Yes, sir.
history. So we are welcoming the Danish tourism. And since we have, Egypt has different kinds of tourism too, like the sporting tourism, the desert tourism. We have the tourism facultatif, historical tourism. So, I mean, we do hope that we will have more tourists from all over Europe, not only Denmark,
Yes.
to visit our country. And I think that's a very, very important area of cooperation.
Yes, so Your Excellency Ambassador Moshrafa, also the Prime Minister of Denmark and her accompanying delegation have held several meetings and talks also with she met with the Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli and they discussed mutual issues of mutual concern between the two countries and the relations between the two countries and the fields of cooperation. Also, the Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri has met with his Danish counterpart. So how did you follow these meetings?
I want to touch off on the relation between the two foreign ministries. It's a very, very fruitful and long-standing relation, and Minister Shukri met his Danish counterpart occasionally, on several occasions, on the sideline of multilateral meetings, and we have a mechanism of political consultation too,
Yes.
to exchange ideas about the problem in the Middle East and the international problem of mutual interest. I think this mechanism is working in a very, very important and very positive direction. And concerning the meeting of the Prime Minister, of course, the Prime Minister met his counterpart, and they discussed several issues about economics, about how to promote Danish investments and other areas. And he explained the facilities and the incentives that Egypt is giving to any prospect Danish investors, especially in infrastructure, transport. And since Egypt, I mean, we are embarking on a very ambitious plan on modernizing our infrastructure everywhere to match the European and the international standard of infrastructure.
Yes.
Because infrastructure, in my own opinion, is a cornerstone of any future development, and it helps, of course, economic development.
Yes. I thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your valuable information. I really had the pleasure to have this phone with you. His Excellency Ambassador Ayman Moshrafa, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much for joining us over the phone. Ladies and gentlemen, now I leave you with my colleague Mahisti Rabia for more in The Breakfast Show. My name is Amal Mukhtar. Thank you for following me.